focus on gratitude and what you do have and know your worth as well, to not settle, as I say, to not settle for less just because it's available, and to not settle for less just because you're too impatient to wait for better.
I have watched more women spend all of their life just in, well, it could be worse, where I'm really, at least I have a roof over my head. So literally, I have an entire chapter in my book called The Gratitude Trap. Where's the desire? What kind of lover or partner are you desiring? What kind of job are you desiring? What kind of feeling are you desiring to wake up with every morning for your life? What are you desiring to feel inside of your body? What are you desiring to feel when it comes to using your voice? Let's make those lists. Let's get underneath it. Most women, when I start doing this work, they stand there, they're like, I have no idea.
I'm Luke, and you're listening to the Luke Mind Power Podcast. What's up, guys? Welcome to another extraordinary episode on the Luke Mind Power Podcast. I have someone absolutely phenomenal that's joining us today. She's a clinical psychologist. Her name is Dr. Amanda Hanson, and she is going to spend some time with us today to help us really become more aware of the possibilities of completely transforming your life, healing your past trauma and insecurities and doubts and fears and everything that's stopping us from really having that positive mindset and living our freaking best life. So Dr. Amanda Hanson, welcome to the Luke Mind Power Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Luke. I'm very happy to be here.
Absolutely. It's phenomenal. You know what? I'm really excited for this episode because this has been a long time coming. Not only have I obviously been witnessing your really amazing energy that you put out there on social media, but I know that there is a lot of people out there that have been through really unhealthy relationships and have lost themselves completely because of these experiences, but also because I've helped so many people through my work that I do that haven't had the best experiences with psychologists. So I really look forward to like this conversation and going like deeper there to like understand, what is happening, because like I never went to university. I never studied. I never like, and I've had like people come up to me after some of my events and go, where did you learn all that? Like, how did you become so aware? Like, did you do psychology? And I'm like, I just lived life and I became very aware of my mind.
Yes.
So we'll go there, I know, but I'm sure that you have a story. I mean, I'm interested to know like what inspired you to be a clinical psychologist and like, where were you like 10 years ago and how did this all evolve for you to be doing what you're doing?
Yes, there's so many great questions and places to go. So what inspired me to be a clinical psychologist was when I was 10 years old and my parents got divorced, and it was not something I was really allowed to talk about or process. And so for me, it was very confusing to be in so much pain and so much heartbreak about what was happening. And yet no one was able to hold that space for me because, the two adults involved were going through their own pain. So I got this very clear messaging that I needed to kind of be strong and this is part of life. And so I remember thinking, gosh, I wish I had someone to talk to. And I can get into it a later version of, and I'm writing about this in my book, how I learned to process my emotions as a very young girl intuitively and what I did. But I fast forward like 3 years later, I remember thinking, I wonder if there's a job where when I get older, I can talk to kids, I can talk to people who are suffering and help them, and not really knowing exactly what that was going to look like at, let's say, 13. I was starting to learn about psychology a bit, found out about becoming a clinical psychologist, and actually around the age of 14, made the decision and never wavered, never looked back. And it's been a beautiful journey. But what I will tell you is pre-pandemic, I was doing the typical armchair psychology. I had my office, clients were coming, whoever could drive to me was coming to me. And I already 2 years prior to the pandemic was in this space, in this place, my own inquiry, my own life lived of thinking, I really want to tell these women things that I'm doing in my life. I want to share some of the things that have really made huge changes for me. And I also want to point out how toxic our culture is and why those unconscious messages that live below the surface are probably a huge percentage of her suffering. Bring that into her awareness. But Under a lot of the guidelines of traditional psychology, which is a fairly patriarchalized system, I was kind of wavering about how am I going to do this exactly and make sure I stay within the guidelines of the American Psychological Association. And so fast forward, pandemic comes, all my clients want to be seen still, obviously. So I'm seeing them over, Zoom. They start to tell me they're feeling isolated and lonely. Can you bring a group of your clients together so we can have group sessions? So I started doing that. And then it led to my sister in Dubai is also needing a support group. My friend in Kansas. So next thing we know, we've got this international group of women building. And I realize, oh my gosh, every woman is suffering from maybe different things on the outside, but fundamentally underneath, I started to really understand how the culture and the expectations on women, the unspoken narrative is part of the sickness running through our veins. So I decided I'm closing my private practice. I'm stepping away from the licensing aspect and I am going full in. I'm saying what needs to be said. I'm ready to flip tables. I'm ready to really start helping women get to the source because staying in traditional psychology wasn't going to allow me to get there. And
Mm.
so it was the best decision I ever made in my entire life. And that was all intuition based.
Yeah, because as you're speaking, I'm kind of like, I don't want to be offensive to, especially when you've gone through, traditional psychology in terms of like going down that road of like learning and getting a degree or master's or bachelor's and going through university and getting to that level. There's a lot of work that's involved for you to go through that, right? And then
A
here
lot.
I come along and I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like people are paying you guys and you're not fixing the problem in a sense, because there's been a client of mine. I remember when I first started, I created a 20-week coaching program, which I never really knew the power of until I actually put pen to paper or typed it out rather. And I remember one person, one of my clients saying to me, or actually it was the first time I heard this, and she said, I've been to therapy for years and I'm never getting the results that I'm getting with you right now. And
Yes.
at the start of that, I was like, because obviously we have a community of people and we have a curriculum and everybody, and for me, unconditional love and that good, positive, supportive, encouraging, appreciative and energy is what we need more of. We need that love and that environment to help us through the process. And so I created this and didn't understand the magnitude and the power of it until people started doing the work and then started to tell me, and people coming off antidepressants and saying
Yes.
that they've been doing therapy for years and they've never got this result. And I'm like,
Same.
okay. And so it wasn't clicking for me until later that I was starting to really question, what are these therapists doing? I'm like, are they literally sitting in their offices doing the rounds of what they've learned, but not actually helping the client or giving them the tools and the resources to actually go out and then practice, put it into practice so that they can actually heal? And so one thing I identified is that what some clients are, a lot of people, I believe, are relying on the therapist
Yeah.
and believing that the therapist is going to heal them.
Mm-hmm. That the power's not in their own hands. But honestly, there is an unspoken system often of that is part of what I think is happening, keeping the client dependent on needing to come back to you. It's this really kind of sick. I mean, we don't learn that. That's never spoken, but there is some really strange energetic there of keeping them dependent on coming back. It's a lot of circular conversation with no action, no plan.
Mm,
Well,
mm.
tell me more about that. Where do you think that comes from? How are you feeling about that? And it never propelled them forward in the way that I see this work propelling people forward. And so I have a much more active approach now than I was able to have when I was under the confines of the rules of the system. Again, especially, I can only speak for women being a woman. I especially believe a lot of what we need as women is very embodied and active kind of work. And same thing, I have clients saying to me, Amanda, I've been in traditional therapy for 15 years. You've moved the needle in my life, working with you in 3 months, more than that. Women telling me story after story when I teach them about how to use embodiment techniques, coming off their antidepressants, feeling again, libido returning, painting, art, so many things returning back to their life because they were flatlined. They were so numbed out. They couldn't feel anything.
Yeah, it's almost like when you disconnect from your purpose or from like what you are, what your innate nature is. I believe we all have like that gift, that greatness, that
Yes.
purpose within ourselves, and when we are misaligned or not in that flow state, then yeah, we flatline. You know, you're stagnant, you're stuck, and you're like, what's wrong? And it's like, yeah, and that's why I always come back to your authenticity. The reason why you're not living your dreams or you're not in alignment is because you're not being authentic. And then we go deeper than that. It's like, well, what does authenticity mean? Well, it means opening your heart. It means being vulnerable. It means speaking your truth. But you know, there's so much fear and pain and suffering behind all of that. It's so hard unless you're in, and I think that's why I've been, you know, attracting, especially I've worked with more women than men, attracting so many women because they feel safe in my presence because of
Yes.
the energy that I exude, which is not normal. Because if you think about the amount of people that have been through unhealthy, toxic relationships, right? We're looking for, where is that safety? Where is that security? Where is that environment for me where I can open my heart and actually, especially with the divine feminine, with being able to be in that feminine energy, the vulnerability.
100%. And let me tell you, when it comes to divine masculine energy, we are in a serious crisis.
Mm,
We're in a serious crisis. And I believe a lot of it, I mean, it's twofold, but I am. I am really in the mindset and really big on the call to action and getting bolder and bolder around my thoughts and feelings around this. We as women have got to change what it is, how we show up and what we expect from men if we ever want there to be a real fundamental change. But if we keep going around and posing and worrying about like the size of our waist and the thickness of our eyebrows as the only important value that we bring, because that is a woman's social currency, the youth of her face, the tightness of her body. And until we demand something different, then nothing is going to change. But we still have, and now we have girls as young as 10 years old, this phenomenon. I don't know if it's happening in other countries and spaces, but especially in the US right now, we have girls 10 and 12 years old becoming international sensations on TikTok. Get ready with me for school. I mean, you're going to elementary school. You have a 15-step procedure to get ready to go to elementary school. So when we are continuing to tell girls that your only real value, your only real power is in your looks, we can see why women are just like treading water constantly, because every day we're aging, every day there's a new product being offered. It's a false security. And women are like, I don't understand like why he upgraded to a younger woman, like why he left me and upgraded to a different woman. I'm like, because you got into an unspoken contract that you were an object. So when you are an object, you have to expect to be treated as such. And when he's tired of playing with you, he'll toss you aside and upgrade you for a new shiny toy. So I think that we really have to start having these conversations for women about what does it look like to be in the presence of divine masculine. And a lot of my retreats, I host a group of men that I know and work with who are in divine masculine to
mm,
hold that energy for women so
hmm
they can even have an experience of what does divine masculine safety and love and that ability to lean back and receive even feel like. Most women don't even have a sense of that because they didn't have a father who could provide that.
mm. Yeah, and then because of their experiences that were unhealthy, they've got this protection mechanism now where you know, they have to be in their kind of masculine at the same time because they don't want to be hurt again, in a
Right.
sense, right? So it's
Because
almost
we've
like
been
an
so
order.
let down. You know, I was working with a group of women. I was doing a photo shoot yesterday and I had a group of women assisting. And every single one, myself included, every woman in that room, our fathers left when we were little, every single one of us. And I looked around and I thought, wow, this just continues to be the story for so many of us. So it's no wonder it's so hard for us to trust the, you know, the masculine. It's no wonder, like you said, that so many of us, I've been married for 27 years. I ran hard in my masculine energy for, I'd say the majority of my marriage until I felt so depleted and wanted so much more from the marriage. It was fine when I was in my masculine and we're both like very successful, work very hard. And I was saying to him, you know, about a decade ago, I'm tired. I'm really tired of always having to be the woman who has it together at all times. I need a place to land. I need somewhere that I know that I can go and I can fall apart, or I can be in my doubt. I can be you know, in that place where someone's going to have my back. And so it was, fascinatingly enough, it was quite a dance to work through. And quite honestly, we're still kind of working through it because he really liked the strength. But it's like helping him understand I'm still that strong woman, but I need that masculine. I need that energy to feel like I can really surrender and be my most optimal essence as the divine feminine. And as a mother, as a leader of women, I need that. And that balance is really tricky.
I was just about to say the word balance. That's what it's about. But congratulations, because having a marriage for 27 years, having children, being a leader, being a mother, being a psychologist, being a therapist, being a speaker, being an author, what else are you doing?
Well, that's the thing. I hold a lot of space for a lot of people, and I have 4 young adult children all figuring out real life now. They're entering the real world. So that's a big energy to hold as well, as each one of them are finding their own way. And so that's what I was saying to my husband the other night. Like, I need a place to go. I need a place that feels like my cocoon, my safety, where I can surrender. And so, yeah, that's it. And it's fascinating. 27 years married. I'm in this industry, and I will tell you, it is still a work. It's something you have to constantly work at. We cannot simply expect it just to happen. But it takes me being really vulnerable and saying, I really need you to hear this. And I do a practice. I teach women actually how to move really raw rage through their body, through this very primal technique that I teach. And more recently, about like a year ago, I said to my husband, you know what? I need you to see this. I need you to understand, as women, as all the ancestral rage I carry for women, collectively, what goes on in the world, what's going on in the world right now. I need you to witness. And I had him sit down one day, and I drew the blinds and had the room really dark, and I put on this rage music, and I showed him, and he was speechless, absolutely speechless. He's like, and I said, you need to understand, my expression right now is not unique. This is collective for women. This is how much rage we are carrying, that we don't feel like we have a place to actually process it or let it out into the world. So we just keep putting on the layers and saying, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. And no, I'm fine. And keep moving. And that's why a lot of women take their antidepressants or anti-anxieties, because I think that's a piece we're really missing in traditional psychology, is giving space to women for rage.
So do you think now, because of the way that you're showing up and how you've changed the way that you're delivering the information and creating more opportunities for people to do things in a different way, do you think that's going to help the many others who are still kind of in the traditional form? Or wake up and go, hey, there's a different way, come out of that place and actually get to help people, so they can heal?
Possibly so. But Luke, what I will tell you is, unless you're willing to get on your knees and do this hard work yourself, and I know a lot of therapists, and I think that there's still a hat that they're wearing, and it is raw, it is messy, it is in the swampiness of it. And I don't believe that a lot of professionals are willing to get that raw and vulnerable, because what I know to be true is I can't take my clients to places I've never been. So if I've never been in the depth and the vulnerability and the snot coming out of my nose and the tears, how do you expect me to possibly help hold your hand? And how are you going to even trust me to lead you through your own processes if I haven't been able to go there myself? I won't even be able to, I won't trust myself to lead you if I haven't gone there. And I've gone to some dark ass places, because I've been willing to look under every single place to look at my own shadows. If I can't do that for myself, how in the hell am I supposed to help my clients?
Yeah, a powerful point. And I want to touch on this now, because this has definitely been one of the biggest arguments, I guess, that I scream about on my podcast, because a lot of my episodes are quite expressive, and I get pretty aggressive in an unconditional, loving way, to help people pay attention to what's happening, But like, for example, somebody could have been through physical abuse, sexual abuse, some sort of like traumatizing experience over a long amount of time that has basically depleted their self-worth. And so they feel completely not enough within themselves, right? So now they've gone to a psychologist to help them. They need help. They're mentally unstable. They're not in a good place, and they need someone to talk to or to process what they're going. Has this person been through sexual abuse? Has the person been through physical abuse, verbal abuse? These kind of experiences to now be able to help this person from that power, because that's powerful, right? So so now I'm coming from this approach where, okay, I may not have been through physical abuse. Oh, yes, well, I was smacked. I was belted with a belt when I was a child. So that's physical abuse. Not feeling good enough, right? My physical appearance was a big thing for me. So I was so, lacked so much confidence and self-esteem within myself because I cared about what people thought of me, and I felt like I didn't fit in, and I got bullied a lot and called names growing up. So I created the story in my mind that I wasn't good enough, and I judged myself so much when I looked at myself in the mirror because I was so lanky and skinny. So now, over that course of a period, I have developed a story in my own mind which has created the feeling of within myself that I'm not enough, coupled with rejection in relationships time and time again from women, right? Things not working in my favor. So eventually I get to a story where I say, well, maybe I'm not worthy of being lovable. Maybe I'm not lovable. Maybe I'm not enough. Maybe I'm not good enough. So I feel that, much like somebody who has been abused over and over and over and over again, for them to feel completely worthless. That if someone treats me like this, then maybe I'm not lovable. And that's been one of the major like keys for me. You don't feel lovable, so you don't feel good enough. You don't feel enough. And so now I turn that around in my life to now feel enough to be the one that decides it's not your responsibility to choose whether I am enough and whether I'm lovable. I get to do that.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
Now I get to teach other people how to do that for themselves. Right.
Yes.
But I'm not a psychologist. I've never gone to university, but I've been through my own pain of those experiences. So who's more qualified?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And it is about you teaching, you deciding. It is an active decision. We don't sit around and hope for the feeling of worth to come in, or for someone else to reflect it back to us, to choose us and say, well, you're worthy of being in a relationship with this week, this month, and feel maybe define yourself as somewhat lovable or worthy in those moments. It is an active decision. My most successful program, which is a self-study program with 25 short videos and an 170-page workbook, is my self-love program. I have never met a woman who truly, deeply, profoundly loved herself. I wasn't raised by women who love themselves. I didn't have models of women who love themselves. So how in the hell am I supposed to source my self-worth inside if I've never seen a display of it? I have been raised, find a man to stand next to, and then you'll be worthy. Have this many children, then you'll be worthy. Have this much in your bank account. Look this way, be this size. So I learned a lot of things about worth that were me having to do external things to get that worth or validation. So the last couple of years, I've really, after all my years of working with women and building this profound self-love inside of myself, I decided to create a program to serve back to women that has every single aspect of how to do that for themselves, because we are swimming upriver for the rest of our lives if we are constantly seeking rather than being. So I teach women how to be the love rather than seek the love. And the amazing thing is, once you learn how to truly, I'm talking about deeply embodied, be all of the things you're seeking, that is the most magnetic frequency. That is what actually long-term gets the beautiful life, because you are now in this being energy, which is so much more magnetic than the seeking and like, where is it? Where is it? And the desperation.
Where does the desperation come from? Where is the seeking come from? And I always, like, I mean, I know I'm going to go to your past, your childhood, your experiences that did not occur, like being encouraged, being supported, being heard, being loved.
Yes.
Right? We're missing that, and so we've grown up empty.
It's so true. It all goes back. It's just that really fundamental time in our formative years. Those first 7 to 8 years of our lives are so critical in the foundations that get laid and the neural pathways and the stories that we tell, the feelings inside of our body. And so if it is one of scarcity, that's what you're going to, that's what you're coded for. So that feels like home in many ways. So that's why we see people repeat unhealthy patterns over and over again, because that's actually what they know. Those crumbs, I've watched so many women convince themselves that those dry breadcrumbs, they'll sit there and try to tell me it's a feast until a woman who's used to feasting says to them, "Oh, my love, that is far from even half of a meal." This mindset, like helping them grow into that and that abundance of their worth is the process. It is the work. But, I don't know. I'm sure for men, I mean, I know for men, there's so much conditioning and what's expected to be considered a powerful man, a successful man, a worthy man. But we as women as well have so many hurdles that we are working through in our patriarchal structure that it is sometimes absolutely enraging and exhausting. And I know that sometimes we dream of running off and creating a private island just for women. We're so tired.
Yeah, for sure. I can imagine. Yeah. The challenge is the patience, I think, because we're emotional beings. We love to feel loved. We love to love. We love to be connected, you know? And so there's a bit of like impatience sometimes as well, because like you want that relationship, or you want to be with someone, or you want someone to love you, or, and again, we're conditioned like that as well. Like all we're seeing around us sometimes is what we don't have, you
Oh,
know?
yes.
And it's
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, there's someone getting married. There's someone in a relationship. There's someone that's really happy. There's someone that got a new car. There's someone that's doing really well. And we're losing ourselves in external, the external world, So it's a game of like,
It's
you've
the
really
jail of
got to
comparison.
focus on gratitude and what you do have, and know your worth as well, to not settle, as I say, to not settle for less just because it's available, and to not settle for less just because you're too impatient to wait for better,
Right. And what is better, right? Like I really help women build that list of desires because I love gratitude practice. I have my own, but I will tell you, I
Mm.
have watched more women spend all of their life just in, well, it could be worse, or I'm really, at
Wow.
least I have a roof overhead. So it is literally, I have an entire chapter in my book called The Gratitude Trap. It is, we can get so trapped in the gratitude that we forget to desire. So I
Mm.
work with women. It's like, I love the gratitude.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
where's the desire? What kind of lover or partner are you desiring? What kind of job are you desiring? What kind of feeling are you desiring to wake up with every morning for your life? What are you desiring to feel inside of your body? What are you desiring to feel when it comes to using your voice? Let's make those lists. Let's get underneath it. Most women, when I start doing this work, they stand there, they're like, I have no idea. And women start crying like, no one's ever asked me what I desire. It is like, it's a pandemic of its own. Women often are in this place of, I know what my children desire. I know what, my mother desires. I take care of so many people. I've never thought about what I desire. And the problem with that is if you don't know what you desire, how in the hell are you going to identify it when it's even out there? You'll just take the first warm body that comes along. We have to really get in the maniacal focus of what do you desire to feel in your life? And let's reverse engineer what that would look like in a relationship or in a job or in whatever. And so, or even like I help people with location, like often where people live is really affecting their mindset and their, if they're never seeing the sun. I have a lot of people who suffer from that. So what does it look like? Let's dream. What do you desire to wake up to every day? And where did you learn you can't create that? Where did you learn that you can't manifest that into your life? And so it's really important that we understand what it is we desire on a pretty tactile with all five senses, so you don't miss it when it's in the world. And you've already started to code yourself for the worthiness of that being something that you get to have.
So what comes up for me right now is you attract what you are, not what you want. So do you believe in that? It's an embodiment of like knowing your worth, and I'm like, well, if you want better, you have to become better.
Yes. Okay. I use this analogy of I teach the women with the two archetypes a lot, from how do we move from princess energy to queen energy,
Mm,
right? And so I talk a lot about women are saying like, I want this divine masculine king and I want all of these things. I'm like, okay, great. Let me ask you something. Where you are right now in your life, with all the frenetic behavior, with all of the self berating, inability, all of the things going on, do you really think that a king will be attracted to that energy? And they're always blown away. They're like, oh, yeah, probably not. I'm like, right.
mm,
So it's really about you doing the work and the journey to becoming that internal queen, because kings in the world are looking to match with queens, true kings. They don't want frenetic princesses who are emotionally dysregulated, who can't source themselves. A real king on his journey is going to want a queen on hers. And then those two powers come together. And that is the revolution right there.
mm, mm.
So teaching women, you are not going to attract those kinds of men if you are still operating in this lower vibration, in this lower energy. So
Mhm.
it's really helping them be patient and move through and do the work to understand that they'll never get what it is that they desire if they're not willing to evolve themselves.
There's so much in relationships, but I just want to go back to self-love, because I mean, obviously, that's a big part of being able to attract healthy relationships
It's
into your life
everything.
is all about having a healthy relationship with yourself. You know,
Yes.
but I noticed just before we got on to do this podcast that you just released a book on
Well,
self-love,
it's
or is that something that's already been out for a while?
the program is self-love. Yes, that's the
Okay.
program. So my book is now in the hands of the publishing team, and so
Okay.
it won't be released until January.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm in the process of releasing my first book. I can't believe I'm saying that shit. But
Congratulations.
yeah, so it's coming along. But yeah, I just saw the self love, and I'm like, okay, this is something that was huge for me and has been one of probably the biggest parts of my growth was learning to love myself, because
Hands down.
I remember looking at myself in the mirror back in 2018, and I signed up to complete Lisa Nichols' Speak and Inspire program through Mind Valley. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror. That was the first time doing this exercise. It was day 7, and on the program, I remember, and looking at myself, and I was afraid. Like I was uncomfortable with what I saw, you know, and that hurt. You know, that was like the trigger point for me going, wow, I have allowed the world to condition my mind and to make me believe that I'm not enough, and that I was afraid to look at the person that I have to live with for the rest of my life. And then from then on, it was almost like, you know what? I'm going to be in control of my own mind, not let my mind control me. I'm going to reprogram myself so that I love myself. So I got my own back, and I'm never going to let that happen again. So that kind of like pushed me on this like relentless journey of really like pushing myself out of my comfort zone and sharing my story and being open and vulnerable and authentic. And I had to let go of a lot in order for me to like become this new version and go on this new journey. So I see you with self-love, and I think to myself, well, what happened to you in a sense? Was there some like just lack of connection with yourself as well, that you've like you're so passionate about opening the world up to self-love?
Yes, absolutely. Because, like I said, I never saw a single woman role model self love. I just saw women constantly berating themselves. I saw women constantly searching outside of themselves and never ending up really with the results or the joy of happiness or
Mm,
feeling safe and secure in their own beingness. And I also think that it is a thread that really keeps women in constant competition, right? So if you're not loving yourself, when you walk into a room with other women, you're going to feel that every woman in there is a threat to every aspect of your life. So it's only when you become that woman overflowing with self-love, you can feel the difference of those women when they're standing in a room. You can feel, it's almost like this, I always describe it as like this beautiful old oak tree. You can feel the roots go down so deep and out so wide, and yet they're standing so tall and so powerful. But it doesn't feel like that is a threat to my beingness. As a matter of fact, it's an attractant of like, what is this energy? How is she standing so tall and so proud, but not that takes away from any other woman? So I recognized also that self-love is going to be fundamentally what's going to change sisterhoods and women, because if we don't start to really do the work around this inherent competition, we are never going to be able to come to a place of even being equal in the world to men when it comes to, financial capital or success, because we're so damn busy worrying about how we look and competing with each other. This is why I feel that women are truly are being left behind. It's our own demise. We're digging our own grave with our own shovel. So I know that self-love is fundamental in that as well. And I saw it. I saw it in myself. I saw so many things in myself that I was seeking outward, for success and accolades and approval. And it just feels like it's exhausting and endless. And I remember thinking, before I die, I want to know what it feels like to be so deeply in love with myself, not from a place at all that has anything to do with that ego, but from the pureness, the divinity, the holiness. And so I started a 90-day mirror practice, which now has gone on to be years. That 90 days has morphed into years. And I demonstrate it in one of the videos in my self-love program, because the typical experience when a woman goes to the mirror is to criticize, to critique, and look at what's wrong. It is almost, I don't even know if ever, to go and be in honor of what is. And so I teach that practice, and I teach that practice before you even turn your phone on in the morning, before you brush your hair, brush your teeth, do anything. And so I walk women how to do that. But at my retreats, I have mirrors everywhere, and I have women get into lines, and we do this. They are trembling, Luke. I mean, they are trembling because they've never actually met themselves. They've done all the exterior things, and they've done all the posing for what they think the world wants from them, but they've never met themselves. They've never stood and hold the honor and the reverence and their own eye contact. It is the most holy and powerful thing ever. And that is, I think, essential for us to begin on this path of self-love as women. We have to be able to stand there and hold that honor. And it has nothing to do with critiquing. It has everything to do with going in through the eyes and down into the soul. And when you stand there for 3 minutes a day, after 90 days, my clients tell me, Amanda, my cells have changed. I'm a different woman.
Yeah, your eyes are the window to your soul, right? And all of a sudden, there you are standing in front of yourself, looking into your own eyes, and it's so confronting.
It's so confronting. You see everything.
And that's why the other part of like this development journey and this reconnection journey is, like I say, the happier you are, the happier your body is, the healthier your body will be, because it's a good energy.
Yes, Luke, I'm 51 years old. I have people constantly asking me, what is your skincare routine? My God, what do you do? And I'm like, I don't even wash my face before I go to bed at night. And I have so many companies sending me all these organic products. I just grab I don't even know half the time what cream I've put on my face, because I get so many free products. But I will tell you this. My skin doesn't radiate because of a damn skincare routine. It radiates because I'm so embodied and in love with my life and my soul, and I honor myself. And I always say the way that I look is the least interesting thing about me. I am cultivating and fostering and nurturing and nourishing my inside so much. That's why I radiate. It has nothing to do with what I do to my face. I can't even, to be honest, it's one of those things, like I can go through the whole day and be like, oh my God, I wonder if I've been on 2 podcasts today. I wonder if I have like green leaves in my teeth. Not because I don't take care of myself, but I'm so busy living my life. And it's the philosophy I've raised my daughter, who's now 21, on is, baby, be so busy living your life. Pay attention to how you feel while you live. Don't worry about how you look while you're living. If women could hold on to that and understand that is the litmus test, pay attention. How do I feel as I'm living my life? Let that be your guiding force. Who cares about how you look living your life? I mean, that is the least interesting thing about any of us. And ironically, the most attractive thing about humans is the passion. And when they're living their life and their passion and alignment, that is what magnetizes. That's the frequency that's so attractive.
I agree with everything you're saying. And I think that everyone that's listening is just like, oh man, this is like, I need to hear this stuff today. So thank you for sharing that. But, I think in this journey of like becoming aware, I mean, I go back to like not being as aware as I was. And I almost am like, wow, I was asleep.
Absolutely.
But I got to say that I was asking questions. Like I was asking like, what am I good at? What do I love? Like, is this all there is? Like, what am I supposed to do? So it's almost like before you get, and that's why, it's really powerful. Like knock, if you don't knock, the door will never open. Like you don't, like not seek and you shall find. You got to start asking, and I think that's where a lot of us lose hope because we want these answers to our purpose, to, when am I going to meet that person, or when is life going to turn around for me? And again, it goes back to having patience, what can you say on that, with helping people kind of like discover their purpose? I mean, it's a big question, but I don't believe that it's something that you can kind of narrow down to like, okay, do these 4 steps and you'll discover it.
No, I know. I can tell you what I do for women, and I can tell you that the success rate of it is unbelievable. So oftentimes with women who are really lost, who are spiraling and uncertain, like, I'm not even sure what my purpose is. I'm not even sure what I'm here for. I'm not even sure how I would build a business. I'm not even sure what industry I want to work in. I'm not happy at the one I'm in. I say to women all the time, and they want to push back on it. And sometimes they do initially. And almost every single time, Luke, they come back and they're like, oh my gosh, Amanda. So here's what it is. It's a twofold thing. I say to them, what did you love doing? If I were to be sitting in a tree at your childhood home when you were 7, 8, 9 years old, what would I have found you doing? And they're like, well, what does that have to do with anything? I'm like, just let's go on a journey. Close your eyes and take me back. What did you love to do? And every one of them eventually comes up with something. And I say to them, you want to find your purpose? Go there. Go back to that. Whether that is something you end up creating as your business or not is less relevant. That is the place where that energy and that connection and that really core passion will start to activate your joy and your creativity, and things will start to come alive inside of you again. Happens every damn time. And because that part of you had not yet been fully scripted for all this conditioning of like, well, what will so-and-so think of that? Or what if I'm not good at it? When you were that age, many of us were dreaming that we could become or do anything. We didn't even realize there were limitations in the world. And so taking them back to that passion, reconnecting with it, always starts to percolate and stir something back up and leads them to what their next perfect step is. So it's always the most incredible place to take women back to. And I mean, if I even look at myself, when I was little and I was struggling because I had no one to talk to, I used to line up all my teddy bears on my bed and I would ask them how they were feeling. And then we would like have group therapy in my bedroom when I was a little girl. So no wonder here I am working with women in groups all around the world, because that was intuitively what I was primed for. I was put on this earth to guide women and have conversations that are hard and vulnerable. So I always point women back to when they were younger to help them begin.
And yeah, I can relate. And it makes sense because what I've experienced within myself as well, and with working with so many people, is that as we evolve, it's almost like we become tighter. And like when we're young, we're open, we're exploring, we're inquisitive, we're curious, we're louder, there's not a care in the world what people are thinking of you. And
Yeah.
then as we grow up, we get quieter and we close ourselves, and then we're hiding. It's
Yeah.
almost like we're hiding our greatness.
Can you
And
imagine
so
if every person was not hiding their greatness, how unbelievable this whole world would be?
well, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing what we're doing. So that's why I dance,
Yes. That's how I
because
first found you. I don't, one of my clients actually sent me a video because I dance and I dance with I teach obviously this really wild form of dancing with women, but they sent it to me and they're like, oh my God, he's the male version of you, Amanda. That's how I found you initially.
yeah. So it's like breaking that. I mean, I never could dance that way unless I was high on cocaine or alcohol,
Yeah.
because guess what? I didn't care anymore. I had this
Mm,
newfound confidence, and my perception of what everyone around me was thinking disappeared.
yeah.
And then it also helped me to connect with the energy of the sound, because I felt like I
Mm,
had rhythm, right?
mm.
So it's almost like there was this complete detachment from reality,
But now
you
you're
know?
embodied.
Oh, I know. That's why I'm just like really
You're
connected.
fully in your body connecting to the music and connecting to
Yeah.
the rhythm and connecting and not in your head thinking about, well, I wonder what this looks like. I wonder what people will think. When you're embodied, it is the most pure. And that's why I'm certain that the dance videos bring so much joy to the world, especially as a man. Like, how
Well,
often do we see a man expressing like that?
yeah, I know, but and it also kind of like I'm kind of gobsmacked in a sense of like the amount of like recognition and like the videos, the comments, the people that are like the things that people say because of just someone like myself dancing, and I'm like,
Yes.
wow. I'm like,
Yes.
it's incredible. I'm
You're
like,
like a huge permission slip for men.
yeah, like, and that's why I say like my authenticity also inspires and gives permission. Not that we need permission, but it
No, we do
does.
not.
It's what happens. It's because we copy each other, we emulate each other. It's almost like that energy is then like a permission slip to say, well, if he can do that, well, so can I. Let me
Right.
try
And
that.
even with less than permission, maybe it is what you get to be is representation of what's possible.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's
If we don't see
inspiration more.
examples of it happening, how can we even think it's possible?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was so inspired by so many different speakers and entrepreneurs and people at the beginning of my journey to go, well, if they can do that, well, what's
Yes.
possible for me? You know.
Right? Yes.
So I think Nipsey Hussle, who's I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's an
Yeah, of
American
course I
rapper
have.
that and he said that to inspire people is like one of the greatest forms of living your life. To be an inspiration to other people.
Yes.
And I'm like, I agree. It's probably like the best thing that you could ever do in your life. But obviously, I always come back to give to yourself first.
Mm.
It's okay to put yourself first. It's okay to fill yourself up, as Lisa Nichols says. Fill your cup so you are overflowing, so you can pour from your overflow, not from
Yes,
your cup. Because if you pour from your cup, then you're always going to be empty.
that's right.
Rather, your overflow is just flowing out all the time because you take so much good care of yourself that you have so much to give. You
Yes.
know.
And then you give with no underlying resentment. It's such a
Mm.
beautiful frequency.
One question, actually, because I saw you recently speaking at a Tony Robbins event, but it was a virtual event,
Yes.
or it was for women, maybe, or it was
Yes.
it.
It was their first ever women's event. Yes.
Yeah. How was that?
Oh, it was incredible. It was amazing in so many ways. It was 300,000 women watching. So the impact and the reach of that, you can only imagine. And I brought a very different story than women are used to hearing. So it was powerful. And I think women were kind of blown away. The response and that I've had back from a lot of women and coming into my world has been I've never heard somebody speak so the way I think of my work right now, Luke, and it seems even similar to yours when you were talking earlier about when you're on your podcast or when you're on your podcast doing your solo episodes and you're really like assertively like shouting the message. The way I think of my work often for women is when my children were little and we were like, let's say we're leaving a shopping, we're leaving a store, and there's a busy parking lot, and they somehow break free of my hand and they're running out into traffic, I'm going to scream because I love them so much so they don't get hit by the damn car. And there's a lot of noise in that parking lot. So I got to scream pretty loud. So my work, I feel like I am this, as a 51-year-old woman who's not posing for the patriarchy, I am able to do a lot more with my life and my energy. So I am that mother. I feel like my energy is the divine mother who is strong and fierce and saying the really hard things that the women of the world initially could be triggered by, initially want to make me wrong for, initially want to be upset by. But when they sit with it long enough, they're like, oh, damn, she's right. She's right. And then the lean in happens, right? But I think initially it takes people by storm. And I think some people wanted me to deliver that message a little bit more lighthearted. And I said, I want you to look around at the status of the world for women right now. What do you think is happening? That there's an urgency right now. I'm only going to get up there and speak if I can speak with the level of conviction that I believe women need to hear. Because I'm not going to go and perform to be I'm not here to entertain people. I have a message. And so that's, and I know the mission. I know my assignment. I am laser focused, and anything that tries to veer me off of that is just a distraction.
Amanda, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your powerful wisdom and insights into psychology, and also sharing with us everything that you're doing and your programs, and what events and what things do you have available for people out there, and do you have a website? Where can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, the best place to connect, the most up-to-date and current, is Midlife Muse on Instagram and TikTok. I have two retreats coming up in 2024, one in June and one in November. And then the best place to actually work with me personally right now, because I have so many other projects behind the scenes, to work with me personally is my community called the Muses community. So if you buy the self-love program, you automatically get a free month in the Muses community. And so you'll get to really see what that daily interaction with me feels like, where I'm in there coaching women every day. And then we have Zoom calls as well. So one Zoom call every month where they can ask me all the questions, and then Facebook Live. So they get a lot of daily interaction with me through the Muses community.
Thank you so much for spending time with me today. And I really look forward to one day hopefully being on stage with you. I'm sure that when things align, we'll be able to possibly collaborate together and create some magic, because I love your energy, and I love what you stand for as well, with the whole, your physical appearance and not allowing, the world to condition you to have to believe that, you have to look a specific way. And the whole physical appearance thing is something that, many of us are just conditioned in a specific way which basically takes us away from our true authenticity, So, thank you so much for being that for everyone.
You're so welcome. And thank you so very much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for joining me on this journey of self-discovery and growth. If you're ready to grow and reach your full potential and find inner peace, send me a DM that says, I want inner peace, and I'll send you the next steps. You can accomplish anything you set your mind to. When you change your mind, you change your whole life. So don't hesitate and send that DM over to me. Myself and my team can't wait to meet you and witness your transformation in full glory. See you next week.